When you look at all of the best movies or television, be it anime or live action, the series that are generally going to stick out the most are going to be the ones with a very powerful score. A great soundtrack backing the scenes that it needs to. Can have silent scenes and have them be powerful, but generally speaking, you have powerful music backing the scenes to perfectly match whatever setting and scene that it's playing in, and this series is doing such a remarkable job, so much so that this is easily my favorite soundtrack of the season. Throughout this entire episode, I kept picking, I was like, okay, this is the highlight, this is where they're going all out with their soundtrack, and by the time the episode wrapped up, I was just impressed by the sheer number of times where my jaw was on the floor because of how powerful and how emotional this soundtrack truly is and how much it amplified this episode and being, I think, my favorite episode so far in the series, and I just adore it so much. The fact of the matter is if the soundtrack wasn't as amazing as it was in this episode wouldn't have been nearly as powerful as it really was, at least for me. But before we jump into the main content of the episode, I definitely want to talk about the reveal with the Major, because this was a pretty big deal. This is something that I didn't think Violet would learn until maybe episode 11, episode 12, because this is a 14-episode anime. I didn't expect her to learn this bombshell this soon. And here's the thing, because we are only halfway through this series, it does make me believe that the Major might not fully be dead, because there's been plenty of times, be it a game, be it a show, be it a book, when they drop the information that the body wasn't found but dog tag was or the wallet was, it leads me to believe that there's a chance, and a very good chance, that the Major might be coming back alive. Granted, it might not be, but the fact of the matter is I think this was revealed so early because there's going to be the plot twist later down the line that the Major's not dead. And please no spoilers for people who haven't read the source material. I haven't read it. If you spoil me on Twitter or something, I'll be a little upset, but I don't want to have random people spoiled, so if I'm right or wrong, please don't answer that in the comments section. Please keep it spoiler free, but that's my prediction. We didn't see a body. The fact of the matter is we're only halfway through this series. I think the Major might be coming back alive, give or take. Granted, he might fully be dead, but it'll be interesting to see how Violet is going to take this news going forward in the series, because that's a major bombshell, especially for a girl who still doesn't quite understand exactly how she's supposed to feel with her current life. But the main content of this week's episode I found to be very, very interesting. The fact of the matter is Violet is getting very popular among ghostwriters because of what she did with the love letter and everything. She's popular, she has a lot of demands, and in comes a guy who writes plays for people, but now he's writing a play for a kid. I thought it was interesting, Violet going in, and then immediately he starts seeing someone from his past in Violet. So I thought it was going to be an interesting episode because it could be some PTSD, it could just be he might grow very attached to her, or he might try to push her away because Violet reminds her of whoever this girl was, who we later learn was his daughter who passed along. And I thought it was interesting because this guy, he definitely seems like he's starting to have a drinking problem, just a social problem in general. He doesn't seem to be able to function without the use of alcohol, and Violet, being the very blunt person she is saying, like, you can't drink, you're a handful, like, listen, we need to get the work done. Alcohol's not good for you, it's gonna cloud your judgment. And I just love the small interactions near the beginning of this episode because it was quite humorous. But then once you see them get a little more together here, you know, they're writing the story together, Violet is typing out what he's saying for this play, and Violet's getting very invested, something that it seems like she's never really been that invested. Maybe this was her first time even hearing a play. She was in the military her entire life, and as far as we know, she's only written letters since then, so she's probably never even really seen a play. And so she's getting very attached, like, what's going to happen to this character? And I really like that because, for one, it's making him feel good, like, I'm glad you're enjoying this play. And it makes very much sense because later down the line, we learn that this is the unfinished story that he never finished for his daughter. So it makes sense why this was such an impactful thing for him, because he wanted to make this story perfect for his late daughter. And I love the fact that Violet is just so engrossed, so just amazed by this story, and then ultimately when you learn about the whole Paracel thing and her basically opening it up, and then it just reminds him of his lost daughter, of course he's going to snap. And I just like the kind of back and forth in the growing and development. I mean, we see Violet cry, we see so much in her subtlety of just her emotions, her facial reactions, as well as his author. I thought it was very interesting because the whole idea of this show is it's very episodic. It's formulaic in the sense that Violet's going to see new people, she's going to write letters, but it's building onto her growth, learning about empathy and emotions and sadness and love and things like that, and it builds her up into a person, and we're seeing the transition week after week, and I thought this episode in particular really highlighted that very, very well. And just by the time this episode wrapped up with the whole, I just love that scene when she's like basically jumping across the like mini lake there, and she jumps on the leaf there. It's something that only anime could do that shot that well, and the music just backed it so well, but it was drop dead gorgeous of a shot visually, but sound-wise as well, spot on. And I just like the idea that this show is going with. Like, the major reveal, it has so many, well, it really has two ways that they could go. He is fully dead, and Violet's going to have to deal with that and learn what to deal with that, or it's going to be the twist that he is alive, and maybe halfway down the line from now, we're going to see him brought back into the fray. Who knows what they're going to do there, but it's going to be interesting no matter which way they take it, because it's going to be a major point for Violet. She's going to have to grow one way or the other. Either the Major's still alive and she'll be able to understand what love is and be able to experience that, or she's going to have to understand what it's like to love and loss. You know, there's so many ways that they can go with this whole direction in her development, but I love what they brought to the table with this character, this author who just wanted to finish the story for his daughter, and he got to do that. And I love his line saying, like, if there is no God, there can't be a God, but if there is a God, it has to be her. I love that line so much. It's so beautiful, and I was a little worried here, and I'm still a little worried in the sense that a couple weeks back we got introduced to, I believe, Gilbert's brother. It might have been his, like, cousin or someone along the nature, but he confronts Violet, and I thought they were never going to reference that again because it's been a couple of weeks, but they do briefly in kind of like a internal monologue where you hear his kind of like insults towards Violet, and then she thinks back to what Gilbert was saying to her, so it seems like we might not see the full confrontation there. Maybe it'll be something that she just has to deal with, that maybe it just ended the way we heard, that he just insults her because how could a cold-blooded soldier like you now write letters for people? But on the opposite end of the spectrum, Gilbert is like, you have to live your life. You're not a worthless object. You're not a weapon. You are a person. So it's interesting how the two are conflicting with her, but I do want to see the remainder of that conversation, and I hope down the line we'll get to see that, and maybe just another conversation between the two. I just hope we don't see the last of Gilbert's family there confronting Violet, because it was a very interesting plot point. It seems a little weird that they brought it up and now they're kind of brushing it aside, but at least we did get some reference to it in this episode, which definitely pushed her progression forward. But overall, like I said, I think this is definitely my favorite episode of Violet Evergarden. The power, the emotion, just the pain and suffering in this episode, but also the resolution. This was a very beautiful episode at the end of the day, and I can't wait to see what episode 8 is going to bring us next week. Let me know your thoughts. What do you think of this episode, and what was your favorite moment? Let me know down in that comment section below, and before you leave, smack that like button to show your support. If you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe. So until next time, everyone, please take care and have a good one.